That looks much better. Is this thing on? Can you guys see me and hear me? Let me know. No intro or anything. We're just gonna get right into the apple scrapple. Okay. Let me just make sure people know that we are live now. Ooh, child. Like, can I just read a fucking stat really quick? Arsenal had 4.37 XG to Leicester's 0.27. They scored 2 goals. We scored 4 goals. But it's just like, we were so wasteful. We had 10 big chances. We wasted so many of them. Like, when I like say that Arsenal are like just like not clinical at all, this is the game that I will point to. That should have been a very, very simple game. And there are going to be games where our defense is not as stable as it usually is, you know, but we shouldn't have to keep a clean sheet to have a standard win. You know, I feel like at this stage, if we don't keep a clean sheet, it's going to be much closer than it needs to be, because in the first half of games, we can't seem to put away simple chances. It's just, it really shouldn't be this. I mean, I'm so happy that we won because, like, let's be real, it would have been embarrassing if we had not, and it was a close shave. 4-2 really, it's weird. It doesn't flatter us because we definitely had the chances and the amount, like the play to like 4 goals is something that we should have been getting, but it flatters us because of how poorly we played in the second half. Like, it shouldn't have taken that. I kept saying during the watch along, I was just like, we just need to score a goal against a really bad Leicester side. You know, it really should not be rocket science. And we were making it like, I mean, some of the slow passing and the sideways and backwards was fucking excruciating. But it really was a tale of 2 halves. The first half where we were really, really comfortable. Again, we should have scored 3 or 4 goals, which hopefully they're starting to learn. If you don't score those goals, like against Brighton and like today, you are going to suffer, you know? So, but it's like a tale of 2 halves, very comfortable first half, very like poor second half, if we're honest. I know that a lot of people are going to want to talk about Nwaneri, and we should talk about Nwaneri because, again, after he played against Bolton, I asked, should he start in these games against Leicester and Southampton and Bournemouth away, these types of games. And people were saying, no, he shouldn't. We should keep running the same midfield. It's, you know, he hasn't earned it. Genuinely, our midfield is not good enough where Nwaneri should not be getting a look in. When they decided that they wanted to play Leicester, they were genuinely running through our midfield. And that's been a common theme this entire season. If Rice is high and they get beyond Rice, we just retreat into our box and they can sprint right at our back line and they get easy chances. And we all know why that is. Not quite sure why. We're trying to pretend like we don't know what it is. But genuinely, I would drop Rice to the 6. And if Marino is back next week, I would start him even if he's not fully fit and put Nwaneri in Odegaard's position and move on. This midfield, just for me, it just doesn't control games the way that it should. We can't. Second half, we didn't have that consistent pressure because you just had to drop off. Like, you know, so yeah, and like TB said, heart attack, like Leicester really didn't have to do much. Also, the warning signs for James Justin on the back post were there in the first half. I think he got a shot off in the first half. And I was like, okay, so Calafiori and Martinelli need to figure out who's going to track that run. Cala was coming too central and Gabriel Martinelli was nowhere to be found. And it's no surprise that that's how he scored his goal. If you don't mark those players, the ball's going to get to them. And it was a great shot. It was really, really good, but we should have dealt with that in the first half. So a lot of things, there's obviously some positive too, you know, and the positive will definitely go, it will go under the radar because of the way that we finished the match. The way that we finished the game was so shocking, for a team that's supposedly going for the title. But I do want to say that, I'm happy for Martinelli, with his goal and his assist. That's 3 GA in the last 2 games in the Premier League. It's no surprise that Calafiori comes in and he instantly starts playing better. It's almost as if you have left footers on the left side, you can actually play. I also want to say that I thought Timber was really, really good, especially in the first half. He's more than capable of playing on that right back. Thought he was great. I thought Declan Rice also had a really good game. And so there was a lot of positives that will obviously go under the radar because we're not clinical enough. And we are going to give up goals. We're not always going to have clean sheets. That second goal was ridiculous. The first goal was more fluky. But I think our team, we got rattled at 2-1. And I feel like you wouldn't get rattled at 2-1 if you just knew you could just walk up to the other side and just score a goal. But I do think there's like a lack of conviction and confidence in our attack. And the individuals are not clinical enough. And the way that we attack is not good enough, So, but to be honest, it's not surprising because when, again, we've spoken about these things ad nauseum at this point, we didn't improve the attack enough, and our attack is always going to let us down. It's just not, our defense should not have to keep a clean sheet every single game in order for us to be comfortable. These games should be 3 or 4-0 in the first half. Boom. Like that. Like it really should. And we made a hard game of it. But again, there were some positives. We got away with it, but ultimately we did deserve to win. It's not like Leicester were battering us or anything like that. They had barely any chances. They scored the 2 chances that they had, and we had a nauseum amount of chances, and we were just ridiculous, just ridiculous. Even the 4th goal, in the way that it came, that's an easy slip ball into either one of our players. Like one was Kai Havertz, and the other one, I don't know who it was. But Gabriel Jesus just genuinely is in acres of space, can easily slip the ball over to either one of Kai or whoever else was there. He decides to take a raggedy shot that was weak, and then it's a scruffle, and then Kai bundles it into the goal. We're just not a clean, clinical attacking side. So, especially without Odegaard. So, yeah, we should just, it's just nonsense. Like it really is. Like today, it was supposed to be like fun, and we still have like all this bullshit going on. But there are positives, and I cannot wait for Marino to be fit. There were people that were saying, oh, he's going to have to work to get into this team. He's really not. Declan Rice drops into the 6, Marino plays left center mid, and you play Nwaneri on the right. Like it's really not that hard. Like it really isn't. Partey is not keeping anybody out of this team. Arteta's hair gel says, yeah, Jesus is playing for himself at the moment. He wasn't great. Like that was like any other team scores that goal. And then also like Trossard, yeah, he scored 1 goal and then he forced that own goal, but he should be scoring that one chance where if Raya passes the ball to the other team in that position, they bury that, but we don't. We're not clinical. And that will be something that is a consistent theme, because for me, you're either clinical or you're not. You can get better chances, you can create more chances. So a non-clinical team can score more goals if you create more chances. Well, if we're not creating chances, we're not scoring goals because we're not, like, you know what I mean? But even in a game where we had 10 like big chances, we barely scored 4, so yeah, it's right now, it's just like, we should be scoring, TB says, give me my striker in January, you clown. KSZ, I'm serious. Junior says, I'm worried about our defense right now. We can't make mistakes around the box or inside the box. I mean, before today, we still had one of the best defenses, in the league. So for me, it's like, I'm not really too worried about our defense, because they should not have to keep a clean sheet every single game. They keep clean sheets quite often, and really, I feel like we've went back to more of the defense that we had 2 seasons ago where we did give up more chances, but we were actually scoring more. We were actually scoring more fluidly. We were scoring more consistently in that season, and that defense was not that bad. We were just giving up a lot of individual errors in that season. But to me, it's not really our defense. I feel like our midfield is letting teams in very easily, and I'm not quite sure that I don't know if it's just like, I mean, do I think our defenders are not playing well right now? I actually think they're some of our best performers so far this season. We shouldn't have to keep a clean sheet every single game. The first goal is a fluke, but yeah, let's see. Right now, the only teams that have conceded less than us in the top 5 is Liverpool. So, yeah. And after they beat whoever the fuck they're playing, because they're playing Wolves, they'll be top of the league, So, no, I don't think our defense is bad. But right now, people feel like we have to not give up a single goal because they don't trust our attack. We have to keep a clean sheet to be comfortable. That's just not sustainable. We're keeping a lot of clean sheets away from home. Our defense is playing out of their skin, but at some stage, our attack really needs to like carry our defense in some games. Today, they struggled bad. Like they really did. And yeah, because that first goal is like such a fluke. John says, just that match gave me 2022-2023 Aston Villa away vibes. Yeah, it was just, how many games do we have where we have so many chances in the first half? You only have to look back to the Brighton game. We have more than enough of the ball, more than enough of the chances. We should be 2 or 3-0 up. We score only 1 goal. Declan Rice gets sent off, and boom, they score a goal, and we still get chances after that, and we don't put them away. The story of this season so far has been, to me, imbalanced midfield, still struggling with midfield, not being able to control games, especially in game states where the other team is actually trying to play against us, and then our attack not being clinical. Our defense is not a problem. And actually, once you put Declan Rice back in the 6, I think defensively will be a lot better. Right now, the second half, it just felt like they got that lucky goal, and then they decided, oh, we can play. And every time they got the ball in midfield, they just dribbled past Partey and just into our box. And with teams like that, all you have to do is give them half chances and they start getting a little confident. And this is Leicester. So just think about when we have to play against Brentford, or when we have to play against Fulham, or when we have to play against, we couldn't even beat Brighton at home. And I know that we were 10 men, we were man down, but we had chances in the second half to score even with 10 men. So right now, we don't, our attack is just not, it's just not good enough, and there's not even anything we really can do with it, because it's not like we're waiting on, Odegaard, maybe he'll help, but in that front line, it's not like we're waiting on our clinical striker to come back, Yeah. Kahinde says, Jess, Partey is the issue. Partey played well today. He didn't. He really didn't. I know it's hard to accept sometimes that he just didn't play well, but he didn't. Marino's not going to have to work hard to get into this team. Our best midfield will eventually be Marino, Rice, and Partey's. It's like people never see his off the ball situation. Off the ball, he's terrible. I don't know what to tell you. Junior says, Jess, our defense is great, but sometimes players doing full faults and other mistakes. Yeah, but again, what was the bigger issue today, that we conceded 2 goals, or we weren't 4-0 up in the first half? Come on, we're gonna concede goals, and it's even this season. Almost in every single game, our best player has been a defender or a goalkeeper, and that's pretty much what it was last season too. Our defense carries our attack, it just does. And so Yeah, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like against Leicester, you should be 3-4-0 up in that first half. They weren't even endangering us any, like they just weren't. Solomon says Partey's second half was awful. He was like in most second halves this season, he has not been good. Against Wolves, we lost control in the second half. Like Aston Villa, pour off the ball, really, really pour off the ball. They were running past him today. Even if it's not him doing something on the ball, he's just not a lot like on the like off the ball. It's just like, come on, So I know it's hard to hear because everybody wants him to be a part of the team for some reason, but it's like when he played well, I said he played well. Today he didn't play well. He just wasn't. He's not protecting the back line. He's not stopping transitions. He's not doing any of that stuff. He's in some parts of the game, especially when we were dominating, he was good in like those little pockets right outside the box, like doing those little slip balls here and there. But genuinely, the game to me is so much more like it's for a DM, you have to have so much more than that odd slip ball. Come on. So yeah. Last Watt Bender says, keep bigging Moreno up. Have you seen him play in the Arsenal shirt? Look at Calafiori, a disaster. One man goes in for defense full throttle and ends up getting turned around. Yeah, I think Calafiori struggled today, like knowing what his positioning was. But you also probably don't get Martinelli's performance today without him. So yeah, it was probably like half and half for Calafiori. But Calafiori, if I had to pick the starting 11 for the next game, Calafiori would probably still start. So I think you could give him a little bit of grace in terms of like he's probably going to need a minute to adapt to the Premier League. Like, what is this, his second start? So comparing, Calafiori to, the situation with Partey, I don't care really what you guys are saying. He didn't play well today. And a lot of people did not think he played well today and wanted him off the pitch. So for me, it's more like, I feel like I don't care. Like he didn't play well today. Ben says Waneri not used to triggers. Out of position, only reason. I mean, out of possession in midfield, we're poor anyway. So, like almost every single team has ran right through our midfield. Wolves in the second half, Aston Villa the entire game. Like unless we're camped out in our box off the ball, we're getting, So I don't know what to tell you. Esteban says Calafiori is still raw. He's emotional, but technically sound. I mean, listen, Calafiori needs to figure out, or he needs to remember that he's a fullback. I think he's getting too sucked in. And so those chances on the back post are going to continue to happen if him and his winger don't figure out who's going to mark that person. That being said, I thought he did do a lot of really good things. And he's only 22. So not really seeing the correlation between keeping Partey in the team and Calafiori's performance today. Not really seeing the correlation. It's not even together. Like it doesn't even, yeah. Nicholas says Calafiori was good, plus he helps Martinelli. Kevin says Calafiori can't defend. I think he can. I just feel like he's not fast, and then he's also not used to. He has actually already he said it. He said that from his own mouth, like the speed of the game in the Premier League and the intensity is different, so he has to get up to it. So, again, I'm just trying to understand the Calafiori hate, because no matter what you say, he's still better than Zinchenko. He's Tommy's not there, so it's kind of like, and if he also really did help Martinelli today. So yeah, Diallo says he escaped from Alcatraz. Calafiori played well overall, 7. I think he did play well overall, but he has to figure out that back post situation. I just feel like the warning signs were there at the beginning of the game, and he still didn't quite get it. But when you're 22 and this is your second start for Arsenal, trying to compare him to a 31-year-old who is getting ripped, it's just, for me, it's kind of like, it feels like whataboutism. You're trying to find somebody, but it's like, no. No. And he's 22 and he just got here, so, you know, I don't know. And like Diallo said, in that first half, Calafiori was sensational, and a lot of our players were really good in that first half. I feel that's why I said at the beginning it was a tale of two halves. It really was. It was especially when it came to our fullbacks. I thought Calafiori and Timber were really, really good in that first half. They really were. Um, and everything about our game is based around our fullbacks. I don't know if people have realized that now, but our fullbacks hold the keys to our attack. How they help us down the line, how they invert, how they, impose themselves on the game opens up the space for us to be able to do what we do. That's how I feel like that's why Arteta continues to buy fullbacks, because that's how it unlocks his game. And I think Calafiori and Timber did a really good job in that first half. Second half, once we gave up that goal, we got rattled. We did. We got rattled. And it's not like we continued to make defensive mistakes. They got opportunities or like half chances at certain points because they were just running through our midfield. But beyond the James Justin chance, there wasn't really much beyond that. It was more just us passing slowly sideways and backwards, not really being able to penetrate. And then the chances that we were getting, we weren't putting them away. So I think that's a pretty like good summary of what happened in the game. But I hate seeing consistent problems game on game on game. And for me, a consistent problem is not scoring enough in the first half, leaving that game open, and then the midfield being a one-way freeway, or passageway, just like straight to our goal. And we didn't get punished because, for as much as we could have been, because it's Leicester. They're a really, really poor side. So yeah, TB says Partey was so open, like Gal, but did good things in the first half. I think everybody did good things in the first half. So if you only focus on the first half, then yeah, Partey was great, in the first half. But in the second half was like, if we're in a position where now we need to score a goal, you need to be able to win the ball and recycle it quickly. You need to win the ball back off of the Leicester players and keep us in a position where we're just kind of battering them. And he wasn't really doing that. And he was giving the ball away, so yeah. John says, what does Nwaneri have to do to start? I don't know. I just feel like there's no point in pretending like he can't start in this team. The midfield is just not anywhere near as good enough. It's not like we're looking at our perfect midfield and it's and there's just world-class players everywhere. We could use a player like Nwaneri, and it really was kind of sad that Nwaneri was the only person, when he came on, he actually had a little bit of aggression. I just feel like we were too cavalier and casual from the minute we started the second half. Didn't help that we got those 2 yellow cards right away, either for Saliba and Calafiori. But yeah, I don't see why Nwaneri can't start, the next game against Southampton at home. And if Partey can't play multiple games in a week, then maybe you should just drop him so that he could be fresh for whatever big game we have, so because you can't just he needs to do so much more in the second half. It wasn't great. TB says, I thought Saliba yellow wasn't a yellow. I didn't either. I didn't think it was yellow. And also hate to complain, but Oliver Skip should have been sent off in the first half, and he also should have got 2 yellows in the second half. The fact that we never get the opportunity to play against 10 men, but it's almost like a guaranteed certainty at this stage that you will play against 10 men if you play against us, is ridiculous to me. Skip should have been sent off. He should have been sent off twice, one for a straight red in the first half and then for 2 yellow card challenges. He fouled Saka when the referee played advantage, and I think Calafiori passed it to Sterling and it went out, and we tried to get it back, but he should have yellow carded him then, and he didn't. So for me, it's the soft yellow for Saliba and soft yellow Calafiori, because to me that wasn't even a yellow. It was just a foul. It's just the referee is creating a situation, and I don't understand why he is, especially when he's being so nice to Leicester, because I didn't understand why they didn't he should have got a straight red in that first half. Like, I don't understand why he was even on the pitch. So yeah, Johnny says, yeah, we need to drop Partey, move Rice back to the 6. He is horrible at 8 against low blocks and play Nwaneri in the 10 Odegaard position. Yeah, I mean, actually, you know what's interesting is I do think Rice played well today, but it was like he wasn't in the second striker role, and his switches of play were really good. His interceptions were good. He was actually sweeping and stealing the ball off of Leicester players. I thought he did a good job, but he's a 6, and so yeah, Rice can only do so well in the 8, so drop him back to the 6 where he's supposed to be playing. Just drop him back. Diallo says that ref was trigger happy on yellows, but I'm relieved Calafiori skipped that second yellow. My heart dropped. Me too, especially when he pulled out that yellow because they were asking for the yellow. I almost shit my pants. I was like, oh my God, he got sent off. But I feel like the first yellow was soft. I don't even think it was just a regular foul, but he was so desperate to give Calafiori a yellow. And I was just like, but we can't be aggressive. We have to be not aggressive because the referee is so trigger happy all the time. TB says they love to give us yellows that they wouldn't give others. Brian says, I know we had a lot of big chances, but we need Ethan in the lineup yesterday. Do you think Kai should have had a penalty? No, I don't think it was a penalty. And I just feel as though we lack just a creative midfielder anyway. Like I've said from the beginning, Trossard in the 10 is a Band-Aid. It's not, he's never going to play well there. It's just, he's doing a job. And so when you think about the level of performance we're getting from Trossard in the 10 position, and what I'm saying is not, he's scoring goals. Trossard could play left back and would score goals for Arsenal. Like he's just a goal scorer. But in terms of what he does in between the goals, it's not enough, so, and we're just lacking a little bit of that. Everything that we do from a creative standpoint has to come from our fullbacks right now. And when you think about your whole creative, like everything about your game having to be around Calafiori and Timber getting into these pockets and putting in these slip balls and stuff like that, you're in a bad position. So I'm thinking, is Trossard performances at the 10 so good that Ethan would be a drop off from there? I don't know if it would be. I think it'd be an upgrade. I don't see why Ethan cannot start in these games. I really don't. But Arteta is very slow to play young players. And I know people say, but he plays Saka all the time. Saka was already in the team when he got here. Arteta took all the way until December to drop Willian before he started actually starting Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe in that first season where we were drowning. He takes a really long time. It's like the senior players have to really shit the bed multiple times, and we have to really drop loads of points before he just pulls the trigger. And so I don't know how bad we're going to have to be, but I feel like he'll try to buy his time for Marino to come back. And then when Marino comes back, we'll be playing Thomas Partey, Marino, and Rice. And if I will not be there. Caleb says we are referee differently corruption. Let's see. John says, do you think having Calafiori on the team makes Martinelli not overwork like when he had to cover for Zinni? Yeah, I just think, honestly, I don't know if it's like a not work thing or like he doesn't have to work as hard. I just think Martinelli gets the benefit of having a natural left footer on that side that will overlap and will run and will make angles and create opportunities for him to get closer to goal, will create opportunities for him to get into positions that suit him more. And if you like what you see from Martinelli now with Calafiori, just think about when you have a natural left footer on that side at left center mid, that'll push him even higher up. So for me, it's like, I just feel, I just think, Calafiori just is doing simple things that Arsenal Football Club should have. But our left-hand side should have been fixed last season. It shouldn't even been broken to begin with. When Xhaka left, we should have already had a situation. You know what I mean? We're doing a lot of untangling knots that we knotted ourselves for no reason, So I'm not surprised Martinelli looks instantly better just with Calafiori when we actually have a balanced midfield and then the whole left side is balanced, because it's still not good enough. Then he might just get back to form, which would be great. Rice can't dictate play. was Partey dictating play today? It's like it's just at this stage, it's like this whole idea, like we don't even play that way anymore, where we just build from the back and everybody has to touch the ball. We're so beyond this at this point. Like we need a DM that's just going to defend the back line, allow our fullbacks to have a little bit more freedom, allow our front line to have more freedom, make sure we have creative players in creative positions. Like we don't like Partey dictating play. He's not even doing that right now. So who cares? Rice Marino will be our starting midfield pairing. I hope so. Cabello says, if we're being honest, Saka wasn't good today. Martinelli had a good game and was still substituted. I mean, Saka, I don't feel like so. Saka and Martinelli, I feel like the constant Saka was bad today, so why is Martinelli being subbed off? I don't feel like thinking about it that way makes any sense, because Saka is our main player. No matter how poorly he's playing, he's still a threat and he's still better than anybody else you would have brought on. So I think Saka was good in the first half, but dropped off in the second half. I remember cussing him a couple of times. So yeah, I think Martinelli, I feel like if we always frame the conversation around, well, Saka didn't play well, so Martinelli, first of all, there's been plenty of games where Saka has played really well over the last year or so, and Martinelli hasn't even been anywhere near it. So it doesn't really matter, that's Martinelli was subbed off. Saka's never getting subbed off. He's our most consistent player most of the time, and Martinelli is just getting to a fraction of form. So yeah, I think always whataboutism with Saka when it comes to Martinelli just feels a bit like you can't even compare the two. They're on a completely different stratosphere when it comes to their pecking order in the team. Saka is on the same level as like Saliba and Odegaard. They're never getting dropped. So stop asking for it. You know what I mean? Martinelli is just a level below, and those players are not necessarily, their spots are not set in stone, So I thought Saka was fine. I thought he dropped off in the second half, but who did play well in the second half? They were all abysmal. John says, hope Nwaneri starts in the upcoming UCL game. I just hope he starts against Southampton, especially it's like if, these are games where we shouldn't have to play our best 11 and still win them pretty comfortably. We struggled with whatever our best 11 is supposedly is right now. So, maybe players need rest. Maybe they were too tired from games defending for 90 minutes. So I don't know, but I don't understand why you can't start. It just doesn't make sense to me at this stage. Our midfield is not that good. Our midfield is not that good. Hold on real quick. Okay, so yeah. But yeah, let's get into the player ratings. Make sure you guys are putting your player ratings in the chat. I would love to know what you guys are thinking too. Let's start off with Raya. I'm glad that he started because I don't know Neto like that. So I wasn't trying to see him, but also, I know some people were like, well, Raya should have saved the first one. It was deflected off of Kai's shoulder. So, I mean, I get that some people are like, cannot accept that Raya's our best goalkeeper now and has been good in the last couple of weeks, but genuinely, like, be fucking for real. Raya is really nothing he could have done for either one of those. He didn't necessarily have anything to do outside of that, which is crazy. Like, he didn't have anything to do outside of those two situations. So maybe, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody in the comments that's like, of course he could have done better. He should have saved it. Oh my gosh, it was blah. But Kai, it deflected off of Kai's shoulder. I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, I mean, but no clean sheet. Didn't really have anything to do. 6, but I don't think it was necessarily at fault for any of the goals. Timber, also, like, neither goal really came off of his side either. So he's not culpable for either one of the goals and had a fantastic first half, got an assist. We had this conversation the other day and people were cussing me about White, but not only didn't really miss White, but I thought Timber added something a little bit different on that side. Timber is a great player, and his best position for us is right back. And I think White has a competition on his hands. I think Timber he's more than capable of being our starting fullback on that right-hand side. He has more in his bag. He can carry, he can defend 1v1, he also can pass. He can improve in the final third, but he already has an assist. He just has a little bit more in his toolbox than Ben does. And that doesn't mean that Ben's not good, but I really enjoyed watching Timber today. And hopefully, White gets well as soon as possible. But I'm going to enjoy Timber in the meantime. I thought he was really, really good. It's going to be tough giving these because it was such a tale of two halves. So mostly going to give scores based on what they actually did. So I'm going to give Timber a 7.5. I think, he comes out pretty unscathed, to be honest. Like, he was really good. So yeah, Timber was good. Let's see. Saliba, that's not even a yellow. It just really isn't. I thought he did a really good job against Vardy. I think Vardy was surprised. Like, he's used to against Arsenal playing against Mustafi and these guys, and he was getting no change out of Saliba. It's so disappointing that the 2 goals came from a fucking fullback. It didn't even come from Vardy himself. But I mean, Saliba, if you give up a free kick, that doesn't mean it should result in a goal. Otherwise, it's so hard to the defense conceded 2 goals, but they didn't really. None of the defenders, I felt like, instead of Calafiori, had any culpability in any of those goals. It's strange, but maybe in the first one, somebody can give me some insight on what we could have done better, but it just was kind of fluky. So I don't know. I think like a 7 for Saliba. I just don't. It's so tough because I feel like we conceded 2 goals, but I actually feel like I'm more annoyed that we didn't have so many goals in the first half that didn't matter. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's unfair for me, but it's like we should have been 3 or 4 goals clear. And I think our worst performers were further ahead in that second half. I don't know. It's weird. But maybe I should give him like a 6 because we conceded, but I don't know. Saliba basically did his job. He kept Vardy quiet. He wasn't the one on that backside supposedly supposed to be defending James Justin. So somebody will give me some insight on that. But yeah. Gabriel, again, another player that I thought didn't have anything really to do, didn't really do anything wrong. Like, I don't know. I'm having a hard time finding his thing too. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm struggling, because I don't think they perform poorly. Gabriel and Saliba. I think that second goal, I mostly put on Calafiori not being aware of the run. And the first goal was so fluky that it's kind of like it was a deflection off of Kai Havertz. Like, yeah, and they didn't really give up any other chances. Leicester had like no chances outside of that. So like I'm really struggling to give them really poor scores just because we conceded, because I think the bigger issue is that we weren't further ahead. Like, we should have never been at just 2-0. We should have been at like 3 or 4-0. But maybe that's just me. Maybe some people will say at 2-0, we should be just keeping a clean sheet and just riding out to pasture. So yeah, like a 7. His personal player, what he did on the pitch, I thought he was a 7. If that makes sense, with no context outside of that. His personal like player rating for me for what he did on the pitch was a 7. Cala, more of a up and down kind of game. First half was phenomenal. I think has to take most of the culpability on that second goal, which ended up really like hurting us badly because We should have just conceded that first goal and been able to even just see out 2-1. But that goal was totally avoidable. You just have to actually be aware that the guy is there. So it's so weird because if it was just the first half, I would have given him an 8. But with the second half and the goal and most of the culpability, I feel like going to him, I feel like 6, for Cala. Because yeah, conceding 2 goals should not erase everything that you did, but it has to hurt his score the most because he was the most culpable for that second goal. Where I just view that first goal as more of like just a fluke. Like that shit happens. Kevin says Cala 5. Junior says Calafiori 6. Johnny says Cala 7 out of 10. Not at fault for the second goal. Same Zidane shit there. I mean, but who is marking James Justin? James Justin is a fullback, right, for Leicester. Let me go check. Because the fact that James Justin got 2 bites of the cherry too. He had one in the first half where him and Martinelli should have spoken about that. You know what I mean? They should have spoken about that. After the what's it called? They should have spoken about that after the first half. And then it just wasn't dealt with. James Justin is a right fullback that was free in our box multiple times on the back stick. So I can't just be like, oh, well, the finish. He shouldn't be alone. He shouldn't be alone. He should not be alone. So I have to ding Calafiori for that. Maybe it's supposed to be Martinelli, but you're the defender. If Martinelli is supposed to be back there, you need to be calling him back too, So yeah, I'm going to have to give him like a 6 for that. That being said, he's 22 and he just got here and it's his second start. So, I think we can be quite harsh on new players if they're not perfect on day one. What he's given us so far has been like one mistake that can be easily fixed and then some phenomenal moments going forward, so yeah, I'm not worried about him at all. John says he needs to wake up. Diallo says it was an uncomfortable battering. I agree with you. The forwards didn't perform today. Hugo says 6.5. It ain't Serie A. Exactly. And he said it himself too. Like he said it himself. John says Trossard was closest to Justin. Calafiori was marking another player. Fair enough. So maybe it's on Trossard. I did see Trossard there, but how is the right fullback is his man, I guess. Fair enough, but somebody's getting blamed and I'm going to put it on Calafiori because he just didn't even have a clue where the guy was at. So yeah. And then I'm starting him on the next game. I don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't, period. Like the situation against Savinho and the situation with James Justin is not going to stop me from starting who's probably our best left back. Zinchenko is not chatting to Calafiori. Neither is Tommy. So we will persevere with this guy, So as far as I'm concerned, it's Calafiori and Miles Lewis-Skelly from now until the end of the season, So they are the only players that I want to see play in that position. So I'm persevering. I don't care. Besides the 6, I don't care. Listen, you guys know how I feel. I thought in the second half he was poor. And one of our poorer performers, not stopping transitions, coughing the ball up needlessly, no urgency. I don't know. I'm at this point, I'm just like, whatever, I don't care. Because I'm hoping that Arteta does the right thing. And once Mourinho gets in this team, we see Declan Rice drop back. If you guys want to beat that Chelsea record for not conceding goals, you want Declan Rice in the 6. Thomas Partey in the 6 directly correlates to the amount of chances that we give away. All of last season, we didn't have that problem. We started giving away more goals the minute that he came into the team and more chances. So I don't know what to tell you. It's not that he is the worst player in the world, but he's like washed. Like this is nowhere near, the level that he was at like 2 seasons ago. The number 6 that was dominating, winning the ball back, also uh, um, doing the tempo. Like, he's not doing any of that. Like, so um, I think he'd be a good backup for the rest of the season, but whatever. 6. Um, just the second half was just like a wash. Rice, I actually think, for somebody that gets a lot of criticism for not passing the ball forward, I think actually had better moments on the ball than Partey did passing the ball forward. His long balls were good. His passes into the wingers were good. He was winning the ball. He was doing everything you expect a DM to do. So he was probably one of the standout performers for me in the first half. And he didn't drop away as poorly as other people did in the second. I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he was good. Like, he gets a lot of criticism for not passing the ball forward, but he was good today. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. I know that we're used to intricate balls in between the lines and all this kind of stuff, but a big switch of play is also very, very useful. And that's what his bread and butter is. And we finally utilized it today. He actually was deeper today, which made him not as like out of the play at, so far forward. Thought he was really good. But that second half just mars everything so badly because we just fell away so badly. And not to the point where Leicester were battering us, but where we were just lazily going through the motions. And it was just such a strange match. It really was. But thought he deserved at least a 7. And then Trossard, he's just a player that, like, he's, to me, a clear backup that has really good end product and output. So I will never cuss him, but he's just not a number 10. And so the longer that we can continue the gimmick, the worse it'll become. Like, I just don't think that he's just a Band-Aid, and so I'd like to see Ethan playing in that position, but he got a goal. That second goal was definitely needed because if we had went in 1-0, I think it would have been worse. But got that second goal, forced the winner. But in between there, I do feel like I just want to see a natural midfielder in that position. I want to see natural midfielders in the positions in which they play. I want to see Ethan in Odegaard's position. I want to see Declan Rice in the 6, and I want to see a left center mid in the left center mid position. I am so exhausted of seeing players play in positions that don't suit them. It's boring at this point. 7. Just a standard performance, but got the goals. So yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying. Trossard 7.5. Johnny says Trossard got 2 goals. As far as I'm concerned, 8. Yes, he's a patch midfielder and nothing more. Junior says Trossard 8. John says Ethan is the missing link. Kevin says Trossard 6.5. John says Trossard 8. So yeah, people are giving him a higher score because he scored goals. But I love Trossard now. Like, I have no problem, with like the performance for me is like I don't expect him to do more because it's not his position. Goyan says Trossard 7.5. Brookie says Trossard 5. So there's some, some people thought he was really poor, and other people I feel like are giving him a little bit extra for the goals, which is fine. Stone says Trossard missed a huge chance. Well, it's better than missing all your chances. For Trossard missing that one chance, he was one of the only players that actually converted one of his. So, Kai, Saka, these guys didn't score at all. So it's hard for me to cuss somebody that missed one big chance when he actually put one of his chances away and then also forced another. So, maybe if other people had scored their chances, we wouldn't have needed that one, so it's tough, to take something away from Trossard. Like, he's actually scored the second goal. If we had not had that, we would have been fucked. Tesserd says Trossard did his job, not flamboyant, but got the goals, 7.5. Diallo says, when a man scores 2 goals, he's got to get at least a 7. Exactly. He gets a 7 for me. Stone says, not saying Kai played well. Kai is literally just Giroud. Johnny says, oh, Jess, I remember that ungodly chance on a terrible mistake. We never capitalized. Those 7.5, 10 modified. Yeah, I mean, that was awful. I'm not saying that it's fine that he missed that. But that is like a disease that everybody in our team has. They give us these gimme goals. You think about like Tottenham last season where we drew at home. Jesus literally gets the ball off of Madison. If that's Odegaard in the box, they slam it in the back of the net. When we went to Tottenham earlier on, or last season, Raya gives the ball straight to a Tottenham player and they put it in the back of the net. We are not clinical. We are not clinical. So yeah, James says it's atrocious to give Trossard anything less than an 8. He had 2 goals, guys. He wasn't poor by any standard. 7 is not poor. If you're giving him a 5 or a 6, I feel like you're being harsh. But 7 is like good. He was good. I think the goals mask a uneven performance. So I want to keep that in mind. But I love Trossard and he's playing out of position. So I'm not mad at him, at all. We should properly took advantage of our dominance, exerted pressure, but we got a bit lucky. Yeah. And like the goals that we scored at the end, those 2 are goals that we could have scored in that first half. Leicester are poor. It's like it wouldn't have taken much for us to score 4 goals on them in that first half. We were just making it so much harder than it needed to be. Extra touches, just obvious passes, just going to the other team, or bad crosses, taking shots when you shouldn't. It's just like that. The 4th goal that we scored for me is so emblematic of who we are as a team. Jesus gets the ball wide open. He's going towards goal. He doesn't have the ability to make that a 1v1. And instead of like a real 1v1, so instead of just sliding it across to one of the 2 players that we have on the backside, he takes the weakest shot in the world, and then it bounces off of Kai and goes into the goal. It's like we couldn't create a clean counterattack if we tried. That's just the wrong decision. Like, it's just a lot, so we're not a very good attacking side. I think the 91 goals that we scored last season were scored all in a really good period. But over the stretch of a season, we have too many games where we should be 3 or 4 goals clear. And for some reason, we just F it up. And if we don't keep a clean sheet, it gets real sticky. So yeah, I just feel like we are struggles. Like we're strugglers. Like for a really good team, a lot of the strength that comes from this team comes from the back line, not only from the defense that they do and keeping clean sheets and keeping the ball in the back of the net, but how our attack is so heavily dependent on our fullbacks, and also our center backs score quite a few goals. So yeah, Trossard, you were fine. Like, it's whatever. Saka, I thought good in the first half, but he had a couple of moments in the second half where he just gave the ball away, nonsense. And he also had a moment where, again, could have just slid it across to any one of Declan, Trossard, or Martinelli, and decided to shoot with his right, which it's like anytime that you're like right in front of the goal and you could do it, you try to cut it to your left. But when it's not a good angle, then you shoot with your right. The decision-making of our front 4 or our front 3 or whatever is just like not at the level it should be. He still was really dangerous and really lively and all those types of stuff, but he's always that. He needs to start scoring goals, like the goals need to start coming. And I know that we've had some difficult games, but what was his last goal? Was it against Wolves on the first day of the season? I could be wrong. Yeah, it was. So we got to start scoring goals, making the right decisions, whatever. And like, I'm being harsh because it's Saka. Like, he's so much better than what he showed today. So actually going to drop him down to like a 6.5. I thought, yeah, just not good enough. There was no end product to mask it, because the assists, did he get any assists? Was there any end product? You guys, like, I'm trying to think. No, there wasn't. Timber got an assist. Martinelli got an assist. That fourth goal, he wasn't involved, and the Trossard goal was an own goal. So there was no even end product to mask it a little bit. I'm expecting a little bit more from him. So yeah, and I thought maybe this was one of Kai's poor games. I was asking the question to my friend Gabby, who was on the watch along, was if there was one player that out of this front four, like if Martinelli is back in form and Saka is never going to lose this spot and Odegaard is back in the team, what is the position that you would need to upgrade to become more clinical? It probably would be center forward. When Martinelli is not playing well, Kai stays and Martinelli goes. But if Martinelli is scoring goals, then Kai is the obvious, guy in there that it's like, we need to get goals from you. We need you to be more clinical. We need you to create moments out of nothing. And he really didn't have much of a game today. So yeah, like this was not a game for hard work. And, we always work hard, but this was a game where we just needed our attack to show that they are top class players, and could easily dispatch a Leicester side. And I felt like we fell a little bit short with some of the individual performances from our attackers. And Kai was probably one of the worst. So 6. Yeah. And so we'll stop there before we get to the substitutes. But yeah, let's see. Chosen One says, by the way, even though Saka didn't get a goal contribution, 8 out of 12 dribbles, 8 chances created, 4 big chances created, insane playmaker. Johnny says 6 out of 10. Havertz wasn't horrible. His misses were though. I mean, yeah, he wasn't horrible, and he really hasn't been since he's moved to center forward. It's just yeah. MD Agency rating Saka higher than Kai. Yeah. Were you watching the game? Were you watching? Like, hello. Look at what Chosen One says. 8 out of 12 dribbles, 8 chances created, 4 chances created. Like, he was still one of our more dangerous players. The level was very high for Saka. We need him to start scoring goals. But, of course, Saka was better than Kai. It wasn't even close. Like, Kai had no game. He wasn't bad. Like, saying that somebody, like, he's not terrible. If he was terrible, I'd be giving him like a 4 or 3 or a 2 or something like that. But Kai he scored that goal, but like other than that, it was like very, does Kai scoring the 4th goal, that wasn't even the winner, by the way, mean that he had a better game than Saka overall? No, because it was a fluky goal anyway. So yeah, Kai wasn't bad. But if there's one glowing thing that Arsenal need to look at, and if should have looked at for a while, is just having like a normal striker in there, probably in games where we don't need all the hard work and we don't need all the running and all of that. Just having like just a basic striker would probably do us well. So yeah. Winning says, one thing I've noticed about Havertz is he never aims for corners when shooting. He normally hits the ball and hopes for the best. Hamilton says Kai is not in perfect form. Kai 5. Diallo says, I'm one of his biggest defenders, but Kai stunk it out today. Let's be honest. I gave him a 5, and I'm his biggest fan in the chat. Yeah, I think it's how people sometimes, and all goals are not created equal. I always say this, and the goals that you score after the winner, for me, are not as big as the equalizers, the go-ahead goals, and the winning goals. Those extra goals, especially in the way that we scored that one at the very end, was just kind of like, it didn't really add anything to his overall performance. If you add that in and take that out, you still get the same feeling of what his performance was, which was not that great, So I think, and then when you think about Saka's performance, although it dipped in the second half, he still was really good. He just needed to add that end product. So for me, it's it's hard to watch games, and then player ratings are always difficult because you're adding your own biases in, you're adding your it depends on what you care about. Did you mostly care about the first half and the second half was like whatever we got over the line, or is it, those goals that we conceded, were they, and is a goal conceded only a defender? Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's hard to do player ratings, but I think if you're using that goal that Kai Havertz scored to give him an additional point or so, but you gave Trossard a 5 or a 6, and he technically scored 2, and one of them was the second goal, and the other one was the winner, I feel like you're just being dumb. So do you know what I'm saying? Like, not Diallo, but I'm just saying, like, in general, like when you think about the game. So, and that doesn't mean that in the next game I would drop Kai. That's not what I'm saying, but I do think that when you think about our front line and you think about the one position that could probably be upgraded, if everything happens the way that it should happen, which is Marino comes in, Calafiori continues to support Martinelli, and Martinelli continues to get back to form, the obvious position that you would need to look at is striker. And even if Kai still starts a lot of games like he does for Germany, you still have to have a full Krug. You still have to have somebody in your team that can just go into the box and you can just spam crosses and they'll just nick it in. And we just really lack that. So big missed opportunity in the summer to get that done. That being said, I would start Kai tomorrow. Kai still starts to me. Bad game for Calafiori for some people. I thought it was mixed, still starting him, so for me, it's just about this game and not about how I feel about him overall. MD Agency says, Kai cannot be benched. Listen, but I would not bench him with the current options that we have. But if we bought a striker, if we bought Sesko, I would be bringing him off of the bench, and then eventually I feel like he would start over Kai. Kai doesn't score enough goals to me. But also, the minute that Odegaard got injured, I said this, that I was like, those predictions that we were making about Kai scoring 20 goals are instantly in jeopardy because we are going to lack any level of creativity in this team. And until Odegaard gets back, I don't actually think that we'll perform well as an attacking side. If we struggled with Leicester today, just think about what it's going to be like with better teams. So, and again, we should have dealt with this in the summer, but we didn't. So Kai and the rest of our attackers will probably struggle to get the numbers until he comes back. So yeah, Kevin says a striker that just scores goals is useless, like Holland and Norway. I don't think it is useless, though. I think people feel like you can have one or the other. It's like you either have a Kai or you have somebody that doesn't do anything else outside of scoring goals, where there are plenty of strikers out there. Like, what do we don't actually use our striker like we did with Jesus anymore. The need for Arsenal to have a false nine, I feel like, is greatly overstated. I feel, one, we need a false nine because our left center mid is usually a DM. Once our left center mid is no longer a DM and it's an actual midfielder and you have Odegaard, the need for a false nine is greatly diminished. I think we still think it's 2022, 2023, where, we need a Jesus that drops in and creates. Kai's not creating chances, really. He's not really, chefing it up. He's not really doing up a Firmino. He's working hard and he's in the box and he's heading the ball in the back of the net here and there. What if you had somebody that just did that a lot better than Kai? So yeah, I think a striker that scores goals is a little bit disingenuous when we know that it's not. First of all, Kai is not playing like a false nine, really, because he's not really dropping in and creating chances and dribbling past people. He's not really doing any of that stuff. He's not really playing like a Firmino. But Kai, usually, when he's playing well, he's heading the ball in the back of the net, running in behind, and other strikers can do that too and also score more goals. So, yeah, I think Kai is good, but he can be upgraded. So yeah, T-Post says, Jess, let's not be delusional. Only Isak benches Kai. I mean, if y'all think so, if you don't think Gyökeres could bench him, if you don't think Sesko in a half a season could bench him, I don't know. Um, these are the same people that are telling me that Timber can't play on the right and White is definitely the only right back that we have that can start, and in one game, here we are. Excuse me, Alan says, can you move Martinelli up top over Havertz and play Sterling or Trossard on the left? No. Even though the funny thing about Martinelli is I think he could play center forward, but not for Arteta. It just won't work. It just won't work. Let's talk about Martinelli, though, because I feel like he's probably the biggest plus side of the game. And the one thing that, we have to look at and be like, okay, good, because no matter what, even though we got Sterling, there's still no there's still no way that we win the league or even get close to it without Martinelli getting into some version of form. We just don't have enough goals in the team. We just don't have enough threat, and he's our only speed, really. Sterling is fast, but I think Martinelli is faster, is he not? So, yeah, I think him having 3 GA in the last 3 games is so important for him. He scored a goal, which it felt more like a classic Martinelli goal where it wasn't perfectly to him, but he hunted the ball, like he backed up and then just hit it instantly without having to think too hard. And I think over the last couple of weeks he's been overthinking it. He is a natural goal scorer. He's a natural goal scorer. He doesn't have to think about it. Where I don't think Saka and Odegaard are natural goal scorers. I think Martinelli is. And he's one of our only natural goal scorers. So, like when Trossard hits it, he's not overthinking it. He's just hitting it because he knows when it pings off of his toe, it's going to go in the back of the net. Martinelli used to be like that too, but he started to overthink things a little bit too much. Calafiori's influence on Martinelli cannot be understated. And that's why relationships are really important and having balance in your side is important, and why Arteta not prioritizing that at times has been frustrating. Now that we've seen Calafiori on that side and Martinelli is now scoring and getting assists, he just needs to build on it. And this is such a good period to do so. He will play against, Southampton at home. They're shit. He'll get more chances. He'll play against PSG. PSG, as good of a team as they are, they're a typical European side that are not going to sit in. He's going to get chances against them, or he's going to have more space. There's a good opportunity for Martinelli to gain a head of speed. And so I hope he does that. I think he was probably like the biggest success today. It's so unfortunate that we did nonsense in the second half, because I feel like, could have been giving him much higher scores, but I think I would give him like our highest score today of like an 8.5. Like that might be a little bit too high, but I just feel like just in general, how poor he's been and how struggly he's been, seeing the performance like that and seeing him even look remotely like himself, I have to give him a little bit extra. I probably would have just given it an 8, but I give him an extra half because I'm like, there's no way we do anything with Martinelli not in form, even with Sterling. There's just no way. We just don't have enough goals. So well done him. And it's a confidence boost. Like John says, 3 GA so far in the last 2 Premier League games is great. MD Agency says 8. William says Martinelli is unstoppable when he's on form. Winning Ways says Gabby 7. John Donut says Martinelli 8. Goyan says Martinelli 7.8. Diallo says Martinelli was very good today. He looked light and less forceful. I enjoyed his performance a lot today. I did too. I enjoyed a lot of the performances of the first half. That's why I'm so disappointed, because it's like that first half was some of the best football that we played. It still wasn't clinical. It will probably never be clinical until we change the players up there. But I just felt like that was the most natural Martinelli looked. Those are the most natural rotations that we've had. The football was a lot quicker. It was a lot crisper. The fullbacks were really influencing the attack. Declan Rice looked really good. It was the first game in a while where we had most of the starting 11 looking like themselves. And that's why the second half is so disappointing, because we haven't had a full 90 minutes of a really top quality performance this season. When I say top quality, I mean from an attack and defensive standpoint. I threw Manchester City, Liverpool, or Manchester City, Tottenham, and Aston Villa all in a box of we just needed to get it over the line. The performances were very suspect in all three games. City probably less so because we were down to 10 men, but ultimately, like, we just needed to get the points. Where I've been disappointed with our performances mostly is the 3 home games, and I feel like I'm still there. I'm still looking for a dominant, goal-scoring, good football 90 minutes from Arsenal at home, and we haven't even played a good team at home yet. So yeah, that's where I'm at. But I do think Martinelli was the biggest plus of the day. And so hopefully we continue on with that. We have another let's look at the schedule again. I can't believe we even conceded them 2 goals. Just seeing them as like a black mark. It's so bad. Still glad we won though. So next up is PSG. And then we have Southampton at home and then Bournemouth away. And then we also have Shakhtar at home, which I know it's a Champions League game, but we should be really winning that. But let's think about the next 3 games. Arsenal versus PSG. It's a home game. We have to win it. I know that you don't have to win. We really should have been beating Atalanta, and people were saying we don't have to win this. There has to be games where we have to win. This is one of them, so you got to get into the top 8. We can't be in that next 8 because we don't want to be playing extra games. We cannot be playing extra games. So beating PSG at home is obviously going to be a difficult game, but we have to, and then you have the Southampton and Bournemouth games to, again, get some rotation in, to really, our goal difference is not going up enough, so hopefully against Southampton, we can get a clean, 4-0 type of game. Bournemouth away, that should be 4-0, 3-0, something like that. Like it was last season. We weren't even playing well last season at that point, and we beat them 4-0 away from home. So that's what I'm expecting next 3 games. And Martinelli, this is a really good run-up for him before he gets to one of his favorite opponents, which is Liverpool. By the time we get to Liverpool, I would really love for Martinelli to be in really, really good form because he is their nightmare. When Martinelli is playing well, Liverpool do not want to see him. He's one of our best performers against Liverpool because he's not weirdly afraid of them like some of our players are. So yeah, and that's on October 27th, So yeah, we got away with it, and we deserved to win because we were the much better side. They created absolutely nothing, but it just shows how fragile, a lead can be when you just switch off for just that amount of time, and how unreliable we can be in the final third at times. Which if that wasn't clear before, it's always clear. It's always been there. Winning Way says Timber and Calafiori are not that good at attacking. Their qualities shine elsewhere. I mean, to each his own. I feel like Winning Ways, you don't like anything about anything. But when people think of attacking fullbacks, all they can think about is headless chickens running down the sideline. Players like Frimpong and like Bellerin of years gone past, and those are good attacking fullbacks. In our version of a good attacking fullback, they make good decisions in the final third. They overlap, they can underlap, they can find good passes, they're reliable in and around the box. In Arteta's system, those are good attacking fullbacks. So, they're never going to be the overlapping kind of fullbacks that are just attacking all the time. So, but I think, Calafiori got a goal, just a day ago, and Timber got an assist today. I don't know what else you want. Most fullbacks don't get shit, So Milan says if we play like this today, PSG will beat us 100%. Kevin says Arsenal are inverting fullbacks that can defend 1-1-1-1. The Bonnie says, different Liverpool though, we shall see. Amina says, we need to be honest about TP5. This isn't an agenda thing. I'm like tired of talking about it because anytime you say that he didn't play well, there are people that will defend it to like their lives. Like they just defend it hard. Like, and I'm just like, sometimes he just plays like shit. Like, I don't know what to tell you. In the second half, he was ass. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Waneri, I mean, he should be starting against Southampton, and I would start him against Bournemouth. I want to see a natural midfielder in those positions. Now, Marino is coming back, which is good news. They said possibly next week because he's looked good. The way that Arteta spoke about Marino, he's speaking about him like a player that he's ready to start. He's played in the Premier League before. He ain't no kid, so there's no reason not to start him. I don't think if he's fit and ready to play, maybe not. They basically saying next week, but maybe he'll start on the bench. Listen, get him in the side, but what I don't want to see is us playing three. Like I really don't want to see Rice, Marino, and Partey. You got to figure out a way to get some more creativity into that midfield, and I don't think it's Trossard. But maybe we go with Rice, Trossard, and Marino. I just feel like you need to bin off the two DMs in one team. We've had enough. But Ethan came straight on and he's like not traumatized. He wasn't playing all slow and weird like everyone else. And this is also why I think it's important to get new players into the team, whether they're from your academy or just you buy them, because they're not jaded or traumatized like the rest of our team. Our team gets weirdly like they get weird after a while. And so having fresh people in there that are not like they don't have the same traumas from the years gone past is so useful. And you can see that with Ethan. He wanted to build off of the Bolton game. And you have to say that he came on and made a little bit of a difference. Was it groundbreaking? Did he score a goal? No. But if he had come out maybe 20 minutes sooner, which he probably should have, who knows what would have happened. I wish Arteta wasn't so slow to make changes, especially when things aren't working. But he's going to end up like by hook or by crook, he's going to be forced to use this guy because we didn't do enough in the window. And so our sins need to be paid, and so that means that we're going to have to play this guy more than probably we want to. So a little cutesy cameo. I'll give him a 7. Wish he would have came on 20 minutes earlier. Raheem, couple of little like going out against the fullback. Another one, I just don't think he really had enough of a time to shine. It was just like an average cameo. It wasn't nothing. And like Jesus, he had like 2 seconds at the end. So there's no real point in like talking about it, to be honest. It was what it was, yeah, unless you guys want to give him, like a high ass score for taking that weak ass shot. Junior says Ethan is amazing. Chola says Ethan 7.5. He changed how we played. Our game became quicker. John says, question, Jess, can you see Calafiori playing style similar to Stones? He needs some refinement. Yeah, he needs some refinement for sure. But I think he's younger than Stones. Like when Stones came into City, he needs some refinement. He needs some chill, some calma. But I do think he can do some similar things. I think you saw it in this game where he can receive under pressure, wiggle out of pressure, create moments where we bypass the press because he just has like a little bit more about what his game on the ball. So I think he can do some of those things. I wouldn't want to put too much labeling on, can our player be like Gundogan? Can our player be like KDB? Can our player, because I feel like when we do that, we're instantly disappointed in our players because those players are so like special and elite and stuff like that. It's like, but Odegaard is not KDB. Well, nobody will ever be KDB. There's no other KDB. He's a one of one. And I think Stones is almost like that too, where he's a one of one. So I want to be careful about always saying like, well, can so-and-so be our blah, 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 but can he give us more on the ball in that inverted kind of like center backy position? Maybe. I think just Calafiori being a total footballer makes him useful for us in that back line because our fullbacks are so important and our center backs are so important to everything that we do. So yeah, Johnny D says we won. That's what happened. If Waneri comes on earlier, maybe we don't win. You can't know. No, I mean you can't know. You can't know. But I still wish he would have came on a little bit earlier. Maybe we win sooner. So the forceful push against playing Waneri, I feel like I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know why people are pretending like he can't play for us. Arteta even said he's ready. So if Arteta's saying he's ready, I don't know why Arsenal fans are still pushing against it. Maybe it's because whoever you want to play, is not going to be in the game. But to me, it's just like I've never seen a player more ready. And that doesn't mean he's going to be perfect, but none of our players are perfect. Amina says Gabriel Jesus' regression is mind blowing. His decision making is shocking lately. When I said that if a good bid came in this past summer, we should have sold him. I was cussed up one side down the other. You can't sell Jesus. There's no way. He's a great footballer. There's no way. Listen, I don't know what to tell you guys. He's just with Martinelli is a little bit different because he had such an amazing season that you had something to like pull back from and be like, he scored 15 goals. He's going to come back into form. And even before that, he had seasons that you could pull from. Jesus was a 3-month period. And within that 3-month period, he went through a nasty goal drought. I don't know. I think it's okay. Amina says, I think Kai has made our team slightly better, but I think we can improve. I still think we need a striker if we want to win the league. Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this so many times about the summer windows and how we kind of get different, but we don't get that much better. There are just obvious things that Arsenal could do to get better, and one of that is just buying better attackers. I think buying better attackers makes you better. We've done everything we need to do in the back line. That back line is damn near perfect. We're back on. They want to see you. But the attack, we pretty much it's like a wasteland. Like we've forgotten about it. So, yeah, I think Jesus and Kai, they're different, and Kai gives us some different things that are more useful to us now. But just buying a striker would be fine. Winning ways. I'm not eating. Winning Way says Jesus is done. Get him a swap deal for Jokeris or Isak with cash. Milan says Jesus sold next summer. Kevin says Ethan can play depending on who he's playing with. That's also important. I agree. You want him playing with players that, you don't want him playing in like an overly rotated midfield. But I think at this stage, if you have senior players that are considered some of the best midfielders in the league, I do think you could put Ethan in there with them. One 17-year-old shouldn't collapse the entire deck of cards. Do you know what I mean? So that's all I'm saying. But you also want it to be balanced. So I wouldn't necessarily want to see like unless it was like really low level team, Trossard, Rice, and Ethan would be a little strange, Chola says, you're right, Jess. Ethan is more than ready. I mean, Arteta said it himself. So I don't know really why people are still like, no, he's not ready. Arteta said he's ready. Burmy says we have more fluidity with Waneri. And Brian says, I think Kai has made Arsenal a better team, but a striker is still needed. What do you think Kai's long-term role at Arsenal will be? A rotational option in multiple positions. I think the fact that we still need a midfielder and we still need a striker, despite him being so improved so much, just shows that he didn't really solve any of our problems. So I think eventually once we finally pull the trigger and get the striker because I think even with Marino, there's room to bring in an attacking midfielder, another one, even with Ethan, we could use more creativity in our team, so I think, with Kai, I think he will eventually end up being a rotational option, and I'm okay with that. I think we need to think about the team and the club and winning. Yo-Yo says, I'm assuming Waneri isn't starting due to hierarchy in the dressing room. His skill set makes him the obvious OD cover. Well, Yo-Yo, we remember there was in the year that he went through that really, really bad, Arteta at the beginning of his tenure always relied upon, always relied upon the more experienced players. Lacazette, Willian, Aubameyang, they played all the time. He always relied upon them. And it wasn't until we were on the brink of disaster and then he played the young players, and then we didn't make Europe. So we were forced into this younger project because we weren't going to be able to recruit high quality players of a certain age. So then we went with Project Youth. And then now we're in a period where we're back with older players and we have a young player that could probably be more useful, but Arteta is relying upon the older players playing out of position and having, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not surprised because Arteta has always relied upon older players. He relied upon holding, so this is who he is. And I think I would prefer us go with the players that actually will balance out the team and, are good in those positions over just hierarchy. But I'm not the coach. So Winning Way says Emery, desired Dua, Goulier, Yamal, Endrick is Waneri in these combos yet. No, but he doesn't have to be to play games for Arsenal Football Club. There's plenty of young players playing now in the Premier League that are not these players. So what is the point of that conversation? Like, what are you trying to say with this? And like, you know what I'm saying? Kevin says, is Ethan a dual winner? After Arteta likes dual winners. We have enough in our team. We have enough. Like, you have enough dual winners. Like, if you have Marino and Rice in your midfield, you really need another dual winner. Our striker is a dual winner. We have two players that excel in winning duels in Declan Rice and Marino when he comes in. Calafiori is a dual winner. Gabriel's a dual winner. Saliba's a good dual winner. Timber's a dual winner. Why do you need more dual winners? So yeah, Omatic says, damn, can't believe Palmer scored all 4 goals today to beat Brighton 4-0 is insane. Yep, really good player. Winning Way says they are saying Arteta is obsessed with Wirtz, Odegaard and Wirtz with Rice in the 6 Marino. Oh my days, we will be unstoppable. I think me and Gabby talked about Wirtz too, that I do think even with Ethan, there's room for another creative midfielder in here. I think a year on from now, Jorginho leaves, Partey also leaves, and as much as like we're always like scared of somebody getting injured, 90% of the time Odegaard and Rice are going to be available, and Rice in the 6 and Marino as a backup 6 and also like is kind of enough. You could still go and get a younger one if you wanted to, but that still leaves room for the days that you don't want to play Marino and Rice, where you could play a more attacking midfielder with Rice and Odegaard. But it has to be somebody where the lack of duels or the lack of defensive, the lack of the defense, their attack makes it worth leaving that gap. And I feel like with Fabio and with Emile at times, it wasn't worth it because they didn't have enough personality on the ball. They weren't making anything happen. So if we want to eventually get to the point where we could play with Odegaard and another attacking midfielder, that attacking midfielder has to be good. They have to be top quality. And so, yeah, I feel there's room for another attacking midfielder in this team. There's room for somebody and the attacking midfielder that can pass, dribble, create, and score, not somebody that can just do one thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be like, I don't think we can get Wirtz. I don't think we will get him, but there's room for another creative midfielder. There's room for Odegaard, a top quality one, Waneri, Marino, Rice, and maybe even a young DM, that's up and coming. So yeah, Tala says Rice cannot play 6 like Partey, man. Please educate yourself. Well, good, because I don't want a 6 that plays like Partey at this stage. I don't. So if Rice cannot play like Partey at the 6, I would love that. Give me that. Because right now, Partey in the 6 is not anything special. It really isn't. It's not like 2 years ago. People are living in the past. Guys washed. John says, I'm more comfortable when defending on the right side now because of Timber. He's also par, if not better than White when attacking also. I think so too. I don't think there's anything that White does in the final third that's that much like superior to Timber that he can't get to or not like exceed with more time in that position. Tala says Partey didn't have his best game. I'm just saying Rice isn't the one. He will play box to box. Have you ever seen Partey on the bench? Yeah. I mean, if we lose Partey, our fans will start seeing since they can't see. I mean, our best period last season came with Rice, Jorginho, and Odegaard. So we've played well without him because we've had to because he's never available. So the whole obsession with Partey at this stage is more based on the past and other things that I don't really understand. Rice can most definitely play in the 6. And you know what? To be fair to Rice, he's never been able to play the 6 role with 3 midfielders. He's always had to play the 6 with Havertz. And no offense to Havertz, but that's like not having another midfielder. I am so excited to see what Rice looks like with another midfielder and Marino with him. I think the minute that we see it, nobody will care if Partey is playing anymore. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know, the beginning of the season, the way that we're giving up chances is directly correlated to that guy playing in the 6 role. And he really hasn't played that well in any match, to be honest, to be getting this gas. So, yeah, Jordan says, play Rice at the CDM. He's not an 8. Also, Ethan is ready. He looks so lethal with him on. Winning Way says, Brahim, Diaz, Verts, Adingra, Jokeris, Cavaskelia, Isak, Fabian Ruiz should be on our hit list these coming transfers. Wayne says, Declan Rice is a CDM. He sure is. Like, he is a CDM. And we played like the problem with Rice last year playing in the 6 was not him. It was the fact that Havertz was in there with him, and that's like not having another midfielder. Partey always has he's always has like either a balanced midfield with him, or he played with Xhaka and Odegaard, which made his job easier, or he plays with Rice. Like, he's never had to play with Havertz in midfield for real. And if he has, which I think he did against Spurs, he didn't have a great game. So I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, in the end of the day, though, even if you are like obsessed with Partey playing, whether it's this season or next season, he's done. So I'd rather get on with it. It's over. He's not getting a new deal. We're gonna let him run his deal down, and it's done. So it's done. I don't know what to tell you. Partey lied about his age for sure. Yo-Yo says, I reckon Partey is a stopgap until Arteta is comfortable with double inversion. His ball playing should prove redundant, allowing Rice to just be a DM. And yeah, I think, Rice definitely can improve on some things. And here's my thing too. It's like, there are plenty of teams that play better football than we do and that don't have Partey in the team. They don't have a Partey. And so this idea that Arsenal can only exist or play good football with Partey and that you can't play good football with Declan Rice is just about what we've seen so far with Arsenal, which has been the minute that Arteta decided that Havertz, Rice, and Odegaard was a good midfield was the moment that everything went to shit. And so it's not so much about Declan not being able to play DM. There's no balance in that midfield. And so Arteta made a mistake, and now we're trying to, like I said, untangle knots that we've made ourselves. And I know they're feeling the heat. People that feel like we can't live without Partey, they know once Marino comes in, it's over, man. It's over. Because whatever he gives us on the ball, does not make it okay for us to be ran through by Wolves, by Brighton, by Aston Villa, by Spurs, by, everyone. It doesn't, so at the bare minimum, a DM's job is to protect the back line, and he's not doing that. So I think he's a good backup for the rest of the season once Marino comes in. How is winning the league with just strong midfielders and goalless forward? Typically, any champions, which include 15 times Champions League winner Real, must have top striker. Didn't say we don't need a striker. Burmy says Partey gave us a few good games, but his performance will continue to decline as the season progresses due to his fitness. Yeah, I mean, it's just such like it's like a conversation that I feel like exhausted from, just because like 2 summers ago I said that we should have got rid of him, get rid of him before it's obvious. It's really obvious that we need to move on from him now, even though some people are still delusional about it. It's so obvious, just from the off the field or on the field stuff. It's so obvious we need to move on from him. Yeah. And so I felt like 2 summers ago was perfect because he wasn't in a position to run his deal down. We could have run in somebody young, but it was like, no, we have to keep him. There's no way that we can do anything without him. And then he's injured all of last season, and now people are still saying we have to have him. And I'm just like, listen, I am like 8 months away from this not ever being a conversation again, and I can't wait. Junior says, Jess, do you like Conor Gallagher? In my opinion, ours only needs one player like him in the squad. To me, he's like an extra type of player that you have in your team. Don't even have a starting midfield that's a top quality midfield right now. Like right now, we're really struggling. We've gone backwards since our first season of challenging because the midfield just doesn't work. We're always doing a job. There's always somebody being pulled from the forward line or a DM playing in the left center mid to make up for not having the right composition in midfield. So Conor Gallagher is the type of player that you have on the bench that you bring in my opinion. I don't think he's a starter in our like he's not somebody that not that profile. So let's get the midfield sorted first, and then you could probably bring in a player like that. But he's not somebody, if we went into next summer and instead of going to get somebody that could wear the number 10 for Arsenal, and we went and spent 50 million on a Conor Gallagher, I'd be very disappointed. I'd be really disappointed. I'd be like, oh no. Sean says, let's be real. Partey's hamstrings aren't making it through the festive period. Then the discussion will be moot. The Bonnie says, buying Havertz for midfield was costly. Maybe we could have won the league last season. And I know we're kind of off track, but there's still like 1,000 of you guys watching. But when I was saying that last season that no matter how well Havertz does, I will always look at this signing sideways, is because ultimately it didn't solve any of our issues. And the whole him in midfield experiment really failed, and people put it on Rice when he's played DM his whole life. And if you're going to spend 100 million on a player that's different than the player that you have now, and you're also going to lose a key cog in the wheel of Xhaka, you need to know that whatever you're going to do is going to give you the balance that you need in order to function. And we didn't have that. We didn't function at all in that first part of the season. And that's not because Rice or Odegaard can't play in those positions. That left center mid, like your midfield has got to be balanced. Like it cannot be what it was. Second half of the season was a lot better, mostly because we had something that just at least functioned, but it still was nowhere near the level that it should be. So I do think for the midfield, that was costly for us. Havertz, second half of the season, saved us from having to watch Eddie play. And so I think we give him a lot of grace for that and a lot of plaudits for that, because second half of the season, we would have been watching Eddie because Jesus wasn't fit. But if I could go back to that summer and use that 65 million to buy a top quality left center mid or attacking type of mid for that position, or a striker, I would have done either one of those instead of doing neither. That being said, I like Havertz. It just was a strange signing and still is, and is left more gaps in our squad. So yeah, Diallo says, I told y'all uncle is 49 years old. Yeah, I mean, he just isn't playing anywhere near good enough for people to be gassing him like this. And they're still thinking about him from those first couple of seasons, but he's not that. Like, I don't know. Do you guys ever talk to people outside, like people that you trust outside of our fan base? Because I do. And they're not even like the hating rivals, but genuinely, like, people are surprised that we haven't moved on from Partey yet. They're surprised we haven't moved on from Partey yet. They're surprised we haven't bought a striker yet. And these are like obvious things from the outside. Very obvious. Saturday says, I'd like to see Waneri get more minutes somehow. Same. So yeah. But yeah, and comparing Partey to Fernandinho is really disrespectful. Fernandinho won trophies. He was better than Partey, and he was also reliable because he played actual football games. So let's not even go there. I still think it's like weird that Arsenal fans compare Partey to Rodri. I just feel like we're just not even on the right planet when it comes to comparing our players to world-class players from other teams. Let's be fucking for real. But yeah, I think Arteta was like a second away from getting like a really bad score. Like, because he would have failed because we would have drawn that game. I think he could have subbed earlier. I think, especially if you're not going to start Waneri, you could have brought him on a little bit earlier. But ultimately, the lineup that he chose was not, it couldn't have never been the problem really, because you should be beating Leicester. You really should, simply, easily, clearly, like fast. Like, it should not have been what it is. But, we got away with it. And so we live to fight another day. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And yeah, we will talk soon. I'm doing another giveaway. And I think I'm going to announce it tomorrow. So I give you guys enough time to, for those of you guys in UK and Ireland, give you guys enough time to really enter it. It's for the PSG tickets. So I'm giving away 2 tickets to the PSG game. And so if you are in the UK or in Ireland and you're above the age of 18, you guys will be able to win those tickets. So I'm actually gonna maybe announce it tomorrow, but at the latest Monday, and hopefully one of you guys will win it. So yeah, like I said, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.